I hope that you have the focus and attention in forensics investigation to make it to the expert witness level. Now, what I'll say is, if you don't have 4 years experience in forensics, writing reports and working with forensics, you cannot become an expert witness. You can do all the work, but if you're not able to go into a court of law and assert your opinion based on your scientific evidence collection, then you're part of a team, and that's fine. But that's kind of the big leagues. That's when you're an expert witness and you're called in and you've done this on a bunch of cases, that's when you're kind of really making the big bucks because you've done all the work behind it. So I hope that you get there. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how you actually get there. So we're going to define the expert witness, the role, the qualifications for it, and it's how you actually qualify, and you have to qualify each time, and that qualification kicks into a Daubert hearing. The federal rules of evidence. Now, we're not going to go over the state rules of evidence, and I'm sorry if you're in the EU, your rules of evidence are different. It depends on your law system. So we focus on the federal rules of evidence for the U.S. because the EC Council talks about that, and most of our audience is U.S.-based. If you can follow the U.S.-based federal rules of evidence, it is relatively easy to follow the state rules of evidence and other countries, because remember, this is all based on the IOCE and best practices universally. So these are pretty strict. I think you can follow most of these, but it depends on whether you're a civil law system or a case law system. Civil law, yes. So let's talk about preparing to testify also. You've got to be ready to do that, how you testify, and then we'll reach back to what we just talked about, which was the reports, the questioning, and the resources that I can offer you. I'm going to point to one resource at the very end. I want to thank the people at Digital Forensics. They actually wrote some incredible articles there that I reference here, and I want you to go back and read those articles. This is kind of a summation of that. I think this works a little bit better than what the EC Council offered as their expert witness section. This is the first time expert witness has ever been discussed in version 8 of the courseware. So we'll talk about those key critical components from a testing standpoint, but I really want to focus in on how do you become an expert witness and what it's all about. So there are two kinds of witnesses. There's the lay witness, and all they can do is testify to fact. That's the end of it. You could theoretically go into a court of law as a forensics person and state all the facts in a particular case, but they could not ask you your opinion on it because you aren't designated as an expert witness. Okay, so what's an expert witness? Well, they take all of this data, all of these facts, and they go beyond those facts and apply their personal knowledge. So this requires a vast amount of experience, but also still that scientific mind that's really walking through the evidence. The reason why an expert witness is great is because they can broaden the scope of testimony so that they can include opinion that fits in with one counsel, either the prosecution or the defense. So what are you trying to do as an expert witness? Are you trying to convince people of what they're supposed to do? Are you trying to sway them to one side or the other? No. What you're doing is you're assisting the jury and the judge in understanding this evidence, because as an expert in forensics, as an expert in computers, they're not that. So you need to say to them, okay, this is how that works. And you want to help them make those factual decisions on the issues that are involved in this particular case. You want to make sure that they understand what's going on. Your expert will base the opinion on 4 elements: examination of the evidence used in standard forensic techniques, the science, review of pleadings and depositions in the case, the pertinent literature that is focused on that, and interviews with other witnesses. So that's what you're going to base your opinion on. Usually the expert witness, Well, they may or may not do the forensics investigation, but they're going to read the forensics investigation report from other investigators and maybe even the opposing counsel. And so that's what we focus our energies on, is interpreting the evidence that's there and communicating that to somebody else.